Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Honda CRV, we're going to be showing you how to install the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch receiver. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this is the right hitch for you. So putting a trailer hitch on a CRV honestly just makes sense. You know, it looks right at home. People use these to do a lot of different things, and so having a hitch back here is going to allow you to, get those tasks done, whatever it may be. If you want to pull a trailer around or use a bike rack or cargo carrier, it's going to give us a spot to plug in. With that said, probably the biggest thing is with the EcoHitch here compared to some of the other hitches is the way it's going to look. Has a really nice appearance actually. For the most part, it's going to be completely hidden. A lot of the stuff is going to be behind the bumper here. And so really the only thing you're going to be able to see is the receiver tube opening. So I do just want to address a lot of questions that we get in regards to fitment on different submodels of CRVs, and a lot of people asking about, will the hands-free liftgate assist work? Where you kick your foot under here and the hatch opens up. So with this setup here, there's a few things to consider. If your vehicle has that hands-free liftgate assist, the way it sits when you put the hitch on, it's not going to work. Honda actually offers a relocation bracket where you can move some things around and still utilize that. And with that in mind, if you happen to have a hybrid CRV with that liftgate assist, that relocation bracket is not going to work. So if you use this hitch on a hybrid that has a liftgate assist, you're going to lose that feature entirely. Is it a huge deal to some people? No. If you're really looking to maintain that feature, then that's something you're going to have to think about. There are other hitches available that just bolt right up and you're still able to use a hands-free liftgate. But the trade-off is they're going to be a little more visible and look a little different. So that's definitely something to consider. I feel like if it were me and I was wanting to keep the liftgate assist, I probably wouldn't want to have to mess around getting another bracket and stuff from Honda to do that. I'd probably end up going with a little more visible hitch, because honestly, they don't look terrible by any means on the back of the CRV. But it's at the end of the day, it's really just going to be what you're looking for. If you want it to look the best and still have that feature, it's just something that you're going to have to do. So it actually turns out our neighbor, drove around for a while and really wanted that hands-free liftgate assist to work. So they picked up that bracket from Honda, and I just put it on, and I'm really curious to see if it's actually going to work. So I'll go ahead and kick my foot to either side of the hitch, and it works like it used to. So no issues there. And I can honestly say now, after putting that bracket on and moving that sensor, that we're not going to have any issues whenever we're using it with our EcoHitch. Something that I really do like about the hitch is the fact that it has that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. And that is an extremely common size. A ton of different things will work with it. At the end of it, there's going to be a reinforced collar for a little bit of extra support. And the hitch is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, it doesn't come with a pin and clip. If you need one, not a huge deal, you can grab it right here at eTrailer. And the safety chain openings are kind of unique. They're plate style and they face flat. They sit further back, so no interference issues there. And they should allow us to use just about any size hook that we might have. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have a 525-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating, and that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. So pretty high number, and just about any size cargo carrier or bike rack should work out. Just kind of give you an example there. As far as the hitch's maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to be 3,500 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So that is the weight of the trailer plus anything that you might have on it. I do always like to recommend, it's never a bad idea just to grab your CRV's owner's manual. That way you can make sure your Honda can pull that much weight safely. With all that in mind, if you're pulling a trailer, you're going to want the lights to work. That way people around you know what's going on, and you'll be safe and legal. And to accomplish that, you can always check out some trailer wiring. Now let's go ahead and just grab a couple of measurements. That way we can try to figure out which hitch mounted accessories are going to work out best. If we go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 14.5 inches. So if you plan on doing some towing, chances are pretty good you're going to need to get a ball mount that has a slight rise in the shank. If you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, that's going to be right at about 3 inches, and you can use that measurement to figure out if any folding accessories that you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Honda. So at the end of the day, a really nice hitch. You know, if I didn't have the hands-free liftgate assist feature, really wasn't too concerned with it, this would probably be my go-to just because it looks really nice. You know, if I did have that feature and I was really wanting to maintain it and not mess around with the bracket, I feel like I'd go with the eTrailer hitch just because that feature will still work, and you know, I think it looks good as well. But you know, it's really just going to boil down to what you're looking for and what you're trying to get out of the hitch. Now, as far as the installation goes, really wasn't too bad. They actually suggest to take the whole fascia off, and we found that wasn't necessary. It's pretty easy actually. You know, the hitch is more or less just going to sneak in behind here, so as long as you follow along, I'll give you a couple of pointers along the way. It really shouldn't give you too many issues. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead, pull into the garage, and put it on together now. To begin our install, we're going to be here underneath the bottom of our CRV, and the first thing that we need to do is remove this underbody panel. So there's going to be several fasteners we need to pull out. We're going to start with the two located along this edge here towards the front of our car. So if you look along this edge, on each end we're going to have a 10mm nut. So we'll get both of those removed. And since we're right here, there's also a plastic fastener there in the center. You can pull that one out as well. Just take a flathead screwdriver or a trim tool and pry underneath the head of it. So we get it to pop out, then we can remove it. We're also going to have one more here in the middle. So we'll get that one popped out. And then just these two end ones are going to need to come off. So again, just pry underneath the head of these. And once those are removed, we can slide this panel out from under our vehicle. Now we can get our exhaust lowered. So before you do that, what I like to do is take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way we can kind of support the exhaust and kind of control how fast and how far we let it come down. To actually lower the exhaust, we're going to have to remove some rubber isolator hangers, which this is one of them right here towards our tailpipe. If you have dual exhaust, you're going to have the same setup on the other side. But with that said, you want to lubricate these with some penetrating oil or soapy water. And you can take a pry bar and just kind of work the rubber portion of the hanger off of our exhaust here. If you follow exhaust towards the front, we're going to have another hanger as well. And this one's kind of tough to get a pry bar in there. I'm just going to try to pull it off first, which I don't know if we're going to get that lucky. But with that said, now we'll go ahead and grab the pry bar and try to work this off. So with that removed, now we can loosen up our strap and let the exhaust come down a little bit. Now we can get our hardware in our frame rail, and it's going to be the same setup on both sides. As a matter of fact, from this point on, anything we do to this side of our vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. We're going to have two attachment points. We're going to be using this hole as well as this one. And then this larger hole here towards the very back of our car, that's going to be an access hole. So what we're going to do is take our fish wire, we're going to take the coil end of it, start with this hole there. We're gonna put that in, and we want it to come out of the access hole here. And once we have it like so, what we are going to do is we're gonna take the spacer block, slide that over, a star washer, and then take your hex bolt and thread the hex bolt on. And be careful with this pull wire, you only get one and you have to use it a few more times. So we're going to feed that hardware up into the frame and pull on it until we get it to drop down. Sometimes it'll get like kind of hung up, so make sure it's in there straight and everything. You want it to drop down straight like that. Then we'll just carefully remove that pull wire. And for this hole, we're going to do the same thing. Put that coil in through. When it drops out, take that same hardware setup and feed it into the frame. Now we can trim our bumper. So there's a diagram in the instructions where you can mark out and figure out where you need to cut. If your CRV has the hands-free liftgate assist, we are going to need to remove our kick sensor, which is just behind here. That way we don't cut it accidentally or anything like that. So to move that out of the way, we're going to have 3 pushpin type fasteners, and these are what is holding it in place. Get these popped out. And then we're able to kind of, you can see that is loose now, and we're able to make that cut and not have to worry about, you know, hitting it or anything. So we can cut this out. Again, make sure your sensor's clear. I'm just going to use a tool like this. You can also use regular pair of snips, Dremel tool, kind of whatever you see will work best. And we'll just cut this out. This part here, I think I might just try to kind of score it and then bend it, and hopefully it'll kind of break off and give us a really clean cut here. Now what we can do is trim out our underbody panel. So again, there's a diagram and instructions, and I just marked that out here, and I'm just going to take a pair of snips and get that material removed. This is relatively thin. It's almost like a cardboard type material. So just kind of your standard pair of snips even will get this cut. With the underbody panel trimmed, I simply put it back in place. I didn't completely secure it. The only thing I did was just take those 2 nuts that we removed up in the corners and put them on hand tight, because if we need to kind of move it around and stuff, we still want to be able to do that whenever we go to put our hitch up. Now with the next set of hands, we can take our hitch and go up and over the exhaust. Then we're going to kind of gently pull out on our fascia there. Slide it up into position. And what I'm going to do, just to get the hitch held up in place, is take a nut and get this started hand tight on one of the bolts. That way it'll just kind of hold itself up and make it a lot easier to get the rest of our hardware in place. So whenever I put the hitch up, it just really wasn't fitting all that well, and that's because it was hitting our hands-free liftgate assist feature, which is this here. And I was a little concerned with that, but I was hoping we could get lucky and everything would clear and we not have to mess with it, but that's just not the case. So we're gonna have to remove this, and if you wanna maintain this feature, Honda actually offers a relocation bracket that sets us in a different area and allows it to still work. But for now, we're just going to remove it, and we'll kind of go from there and see what makes the most sense as far as where to keep it. I'd rather not unplug anything if you don't have to, but we'll see what happens. So it looks like this is really just held in place with 2 Phillips head screws. So we'll go ahead and get those removed. So I'll go ahead and kind of play with this for a little while and see what makes the most sense, see if we can't get the hitch up there, and I'll let you guys know what we come up with. So I put her hitch back up, just like we did earlier, and tried just about every which way to get this thing to fit up there. Really not only even fit or work, but even fit up there, and I'm really having a hard time. I tried to pull everything out of the bracket and secure it to the hitch, see if it worked. Really didn't have any luck at all. So I really think the only way to do this is get that relocation bracket from Honda, to do it the right way. That's what we're gonna do at a later date. But for now, we're just going to unplug this, set it to the side, and then once we get our relocation bracket, you know, we can get this put back up. But that said, now we can go ahead and continue on. With all that said, coming back to the hitch now, since it's supporting itself, what you're going to do is take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a hex nut. Get this one going here. And we'll go ahead and remove this one and put the same hardware combination on the end of this bolt as well. With all of that hardware in place and hand tight, we'll come back with a 19mm socket and snug it down. Now if we move to the center here, our hitch is going to bolt around the tow hook. So we're going to take this big bolt, a flat washer, get that through. This one's a little tight, and that's all right. We'll just kind of thread it in. And we're just going to take another flat washer, split lock washer, and the nut. Get this going here, and we'll come back with a 15/16 size wrench and socket and snug it up. Now we need to make sure to come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can grab one here at eTrailer, or a lot of times go to your local auto parts store and they'll have one there available to rent. So I went ahead and fully secured our underbody panel the opposite way that we removed it, and now we can go ahead and rehang our exhaust. So with these now, I simply just re-lubricated the hangers, and we're just gonna work this into position by hand. We'll get that lined up here. And do the same thing for the rest of them. So now with the exhaust supporting itself, we'll go ahead and remove our strap. So our customer ended up coming back and decided they couldn't live without the hands-free liftgate assist feature. And so what they ended up doing was picking up that bracket that I talked about that you could get from Honda. And you know, I was a little surprised actually. This really wasn't what I was expecting, but I say that as a good thing. It looks a lot easier than what I was planning on, you know, kind of having to do. And you can see here's the original one and here's a new one, so it's a little bit different. Right here there's a cutout to clear the hitch, and other than that everything's pretty much the same. You know, when I first saw this I go, well, you know, I could probably just cut that area out and call it a day, right? But if we flip it over and look, it's actually different. So you can see our original one has a sensor that runs all the way across there. And on the new one here, with the cutout, we have like a half sensor deal going on here. So if we tried to cut this one out, we would end up chopping this sensor in half, and it still probably wouldn't work. So with that said, you know, this one is gonna go in the exact same way that the old one did here. So I'll go ahead and pop this in, and then, you know, I'm really curious to see if it does indeed still work the way it should. So generally speaking, you know, you would probably want to do this when you're putting the hitch on. That way you have all the room. I'm going to see if I can't get lucky though. I just undid my plastic fasteners, kind of push our bumper down. Hopefully I can sneak this in there and get it plugged in. So I was able to get this in place here by just pulling our plastic bumper down. And don't get me wrong, it did take a little bit of finesse. You know, I just went in from this way and kind of worked it in, and I was able to get into position. So with it loosely like that, we'll plug it back in, get it held up in place and re-secured. So everything does fit in there. I do want to mention, I did have to just kind of pop this clip off here, because when it was plugged in like that, it was hitting the hitch. So just pry that up, pop it off, and, you know, kind of push it out of the way. But it actually fits pretty good. I'm going to secure the relocation bracket to our fascia first, and then we can come back and get that in place. And of course, once you get everything together, including the new bracket, definitely not a bad idea, right, to test it and make sure it works. So really curious to see if it does. We'll go ahead and kick underneath the hitch, or underneath our bumper rather. And it worked just like it should. So it opens up and even get it to close as well. And of course, you know, we also reinstalled all of our panels and everything. I just wanted to give you guys an idea how it looks. In our case, on the driver's side, it's a little bowed down here, but not really a huge deal. Unless you're on your hands and knees looking at it, you're not going to be able to see it. And honestly, I think the trade-off of having your liftgate assist work is definitely worth this. You know, you can't even see it whenever you're looking from the back of the car. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch receiver on our 2021 Honda CRV.